What's up, Falcons Nation? It's your boy Jew coming at you with another Atlanta Falcons video. As always, Falcons Nation, rise up. In today's video, I want to talk about the 2020 NFL Draft. But as always, if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you'll know when I've done Atlanta Falcons content. Hit that like button for your boy. I appreciate all you guys who continue to tune into the channel, continue to support the channel. Let's continue to grow this thing and get it to our goal of 1,000 subscribers. I appreciate all of you guys, but let's go ahead and jump right into the video. So, in this 2020 NFL Draft, I do want to give you my grade that I would give our Atlanta Falcons. And the grade after analyzing the players that were drafted and looking at the tape of some of these players, I would give our Atlanta Falcons a solid B. A B for this 2020 NFL Draft. The 6 players that were drafted. I'm going to talk about each and every one of the players in this video. First, we know with the number 1 pick, we did draft A.J. Terrell out of the University of Clemson. And I did think that we reached a little bit for that cornerback with that number 16 pick. I did want us to get an edge rusher. Personally, I would have went with K'Lavon Chaisson, but they decided that A.J. Terrell was the kid that they wanted. He was the prospect that they wanted at that corner position. They talked to Thomas Dimitroff, and he said that they valued the cornerback position over the defensive line or the defensive end position in this draft, because we did lose Desmond Trufant, who was our number 1 corner for a number of seasons. So I do kind of understand why we did draft the need. And basically, they selected the best player they thought was available at the time, which is A.J. Terrell. I did make, like I said, a whole video about A.J. Terrell after the first draft night. So I'm not going to talk too much about A.J. Terrell. What I will say about him is he's a playmaker. He's a player that takes chances, and he's a ball hawk. He does go for the football. He used to play wide receiver in high school, so he does have great hands. And like I said, he is a guy that attacks the ball in the air. He is a very physical corner, long corner like Dan Quinn likes in his scheme, like a Richard Sherman. And as you know, with Richard Sherman as well, Richard Sherman was actually a wide receiver in college that was converted to the corner position. So maybe A.J. Terrell can, have the same success that Richard Sherman had in the league. But he is about 6'1.5", 6'2", 190 pounds. Like I said, a very explosive athlete, a very fast athlete. Can tackle well for the corner position, which I value in corners. But he's a very solid player. I do see him as being the number 1 corner for our Atlanta Falcons. I do think that he has the highest ceiling. Him and Kendall Sheffield are the 2 cornerbacks that I think will eventually be the starters at some point this season. And I do think that going with A.J. Terrell was a good pickup. I do think, like I said, I do think we reached a little bit for that position, but they said that he was a player that they wanted and he was a player that they targeted, and they didn't want to take a chance that he wouldn't be there in the 2nd round. Now, moving to the 2nd round, we did draft in the 2nd round Marlin Davidson from the University of Auburn. And you know that I'm an Auburn football fan. I'm an Auburn college football fan, so I know a ton about Marlin Davidson. One thing I can say, and I put this on Twitter after we drafted him, is that Grady now has a partner next to him in the trenches. Marlin Davidson is definitely a dog. He's definitely a great football player, a very physical football player, doesn't back down to any challenges. He played alongside Derrick Brown, so he did learn from one of the best, out there doing it in the collegiate level. Him and Derrick Brown were probably the best pairing of nose tackles or inside players in college last season. Another thing I can tell you about Marlin Davidson is Marlin Davidson not only can play the 3 technique or play the nose position, but he also can play at the defensive end position. So I'm thinking maybe what the Falcons were thinking is they're getting a player that can play multiple positions, whether he's playing nose tackle or whether he's playing the defensive end. So that may have been the reason why the Atlanta Falcons decided not to draft an edge rusher, because Marlin Davidson on 3rd down can also move out to the defensive end position, whether he's in a 2-point stance, standing up, or whether he's in a 3-point stance with his hands in the dirt. He definitely can get after the quarterback off the edge or playing inside. And if you line him and Grady Jarrett up next to each other, I really think that they could really cause a lot of havoc inside. So I do think that Marlin Davidson is really going to help the Atlanta Falcons with that interior pass rush. He's going to make Grady Jarrett's life a lot easier. He also is going to be very good and stout in the running game with stopping the run and stuffing the run. Like I said, he is one of those players that's very nasty. He was very outspoken at the combine, and he's one of those players that you want every team needs on their team. He's definitely one of those players that every team needs, as far as his junkyard dog mentality, his never give up mentality, his high motor. So I'm very excited to see him and Grady Jarrett line up next to each other. I'm definitely going to get me a Marlin Davidson jersey and a Grady Jarrett jersey. Those are probably going to be one of the best pairings. I think they could be the best pairing in the NFC South inside. But those guys are very, very good. And I think those guys are going to be very, very good as a tandem. One good thing about Marlin Davidson as well is he is a little bit bigger than I thought he was as far as height-wise. I didn't realize that he was 6'3". I thought he was around Grady Jarrett size at like 6'1" or 6 feet even. So he is a little bit a bigger version of a Grady Jarrett, but he's just as physical, just as quick with his swim moves, and he's just as powerful as Grady Jarrett inside. So I definitely think, to me, Marlin Davidson was the best draft pick within all 6 picks that we selected with the Falcons. I think Marlin Davidson was the best draft pick out of all of the players I've seen picked, during the draft. Now with the 3rd pick, I believe we went with Matt Hennessy out of the University of Temple. I definitely like Matt Hennessy as well. He's not a guy that I mentioned in my mock drafts, but I definitely had him on my draft board. If you've been watching my channel, you know pretty much when I was doing my draft board or talking about mock drafts and stuff like that, I mainly stuck with talking about defense, because I felt like we definitely needed to address our defense and draft heavily on the defensive side of the football in this draft, and we definitely did draft heavy on the defensive side of the football. On the defensive side of the football. So I definitely think that we did the right thing with going heavy on the defense. But I do think that Matt Hennessy was the correct choice at the third overall round, or in the 3rd round. I definitely think that Matt Hennessy was a great pickup. He's a guy that I definitely can see coming in and being the starting guard until Alex Mack is done playing, and then he can slide right into that center role. He did play the center position at the University of Temple, but he's one of those guys that's very quick, has quick hands, quick feet, and can move, can pull on those plays where you want him to pull around at the guard position. He definitely can get out and lead on a screen pass, or get out and lead on a sweep. He's one of those guys that definitely can move his feet and get out and run. And that's definitely something that the Atlanta Falcons love in their offensive linemen, of being athletic, being able to run, being able to get out in front of the running back or the ball carrier, and pave the way and open up holes for them. So I definitely think that Matt Hennessy was definitely a need that we addressed, and I definitely think that he's going to have a ton of success in this league. And I definitely think that if he studies under Alex Mack, he's only going to get better and better. So I definitely can see him being the future center of our team once Alex Mack retire. But I do like that kid Hennessy a lot. He was at the Senior Bowl. And another thing that I noticed about the Atlanta Falcons, if you didn't pick up on it, and to me, since Dan Quinn has been here, it seems like our Falcons love drafting guys that they coach in the Pro Bowl, not in the Pro Bowl, but in the Senior Bowl. They love selecting players that play in the Senior Bowl and the Collegiate Bowl. And I noticed that again this year. Last year it was John Kaminsky that they went and got during the Senior Bowl, that they decided to draft last year. They fell in love with him at the Senior Bowl. And I think it was the same thing for Matt Hennessy. They fell in love with this kid at the Senior Bowl, and him and Marlin Davidson, they fell in love with both of those guys at the Senior Bowl. So I definitely think that, like I said, Hennessy can come right in and solidify that line, because we were weak at one of the guard positions with Jamon Brown and Carpenter, who couldn't stay healthy last season. So I definitely see Hennessy coming in and beating those guys out for the job. And maybe even Carpenter or one of those guys may get cut before the season start and open up some more cap space. But with that being said, I definitely think that Matt Hennessy choice wasn't a sexy pick, but it definitely was a player that we needed. Matt Ryan was sacked way too many times last year. And also Hennessy will be a great pairing inside with Alex Mack and them guys working in a tandem. And he'll be very good in helping us in the run game. I think this year we're going to be able to run the ball a lot better with Todd Gurley and with Brian Hill due to the offensive line play being a lot better and holes being opened up where they can run through. So with that being said, with our next pick, which I think was in the 4th round, I think we took Michael Walker out of the University of Fresno State. I went and watched some tape on this kid because I didn't know anything about him. I didn't know who he was. I had never heard his name, so I'm not going to even front here on my channel. But I did go and watch some tape on him yesterday, and I really like the kid a lot. Michael Walker. To me, he could possibly fill the Devondre Campbell role, or he possibly could be a hybrid player, because I noticed if you go watch tape on Michael Walker out of Fresno State, he's a player that kind of was coming off of the edge some with Fresno State, and he played up on the line. At times, he was actually in the three-point stance with his hand in the dirt. It was other times where he was shooting gaps, like they would have him line up in the A gaps in between the center and guard and basically just come downhill. And a lot of the highlights that I seen on YouTube of Michael Walker was him stopping the run. He didn't have a ton of him dropping in coverage. They didn't have a ton of plays where it looked like he was dropping in coverage. Mainly, it looks like he was just coming downhill and being that physical force. And it kind of reminded me of Devondre Campbell last season after the bye week when they started to play Devondre Campbell closer to the line of scrimmage, and he was coming down in the run game and coming down and bringing pressure and trying to get sacks and things of that nature. To me, that's what Michael Walker, to me, he plays similar to Devondre Campbell, but to me, they didn't have him playing in space a lot. It looks like they had him right up on the line because I believe Fresno State runs at 3-4. So he was like one of those outside linebackers that was actually being used kind of as a defensive end in the 4-3. So I definitely think that he's one of those players that's also versatile, maybe like a Zach Bond, who can play the linebacker position and can play the defensive line position. So I can see them using him as a Swiss Army knife, and this could possibly be another reason why Dan Quinn and Thomas Dimitroff decided not to draft a pure edge rusher, because they decided to bring in like a Michael Walker and a Marlin Davidson, which both of these players are really, really versatile. They can do a lot of different things on defense. So I do like the signing or the draft pick of Michael Walker. He did look like he's a great athlete. I believe they said he ran a 4.6 40, if I'm not mistaken, at the combine, which is pretty good. I think he goes about 6'3", 235 pounds. So he is kind of built kind of like a Deion Jones. Maybe a little bit more muscular, but he has that speed where he can flow sideline to sideline. And if he studies under Deion Jones and studies in that linebacker room and, works with Jeff Ulbrich, I definitely think that Michael Walker could be a contributor to our team. But I was really surprised when I seen his tape, because to me, his tape, he didn't look like a pure linebacker. He looked more like a hybrid player, kind of like a Vic Beasley, or even kind of like a poor man's Kayvon Chaisson, where he does similar things to what Kayvon Chaisson can do, as far as rushing the passer, dropping off in coverage some. I know in one of his highlights, he had a pick six where they tried to throw a quick screen out to the running back in the flats, and he jumped the route and was able to get a touchdown. So he did prove in some of his highlights, his college highlights, that he's a great athlete and he's a pretty fast linebacker. So with that being said, I do think that Michael Walker definitely is going to be possibly a second string player behind Deion Jones and Foye Oluokun, but I definitely think that all of those guys can teach this kid, Michael Walker, how to play the linebacker position and how to learn how to read coverages and stuff like that. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and talk about the next pick. Our next pick, I'm trying to think who we took after that, after Michael Walker. Oh, it was the kid out of California, Jalen Hawkins, I believe is his name. And this Jalen Hawkins kid, I was really impressed with his highlight tape. I went and watched some tape on this kid, and Jalen Hawkins is really physical. This dude is physical. He puts me in the mind of a DeMonte Casey mixed with a Keanu Neal. So if those two guys had a baby, the baby would be Jalen Hawkins, because Jalen Hawkins is not only look like he's a ball hawk. I seen one play where he's intercepting the ball with one hand like Odell Beckham, and then I see plays where he's blowing up people. And in one of his little when they were talking about him, one of the analysts was talking about him and his strengths and weaknesses in the draft. One of his weaknesses, they were saying, is he was one of those players that got a lot of targeting penalties because he's really, really physical, like a heat-seeking missile. He puts his body on the line, and he tries to lay guys out. And you know I love physical play. I love physical players. And Jalen Hawkins is right up my alley. I hadn't seen any tape on this kid either, so the Falcons really surprised me with this pick as well. I was looking to get someone like a Jeremy Chin, who was drafted by the Panthers, but I was pleased with the pick once I watched his tape and seen how physical this kid is, and that he also can be a ball hawk. I think his biggest strength is being able to play both safety positions, because it looked like at California University, they were using him as a strong safety and a free safety. And I actually was looking at Ashton Davis, who was the other safety at Cal. He was one of the other players that I had on my draft board, and I watched some tape on him, but I paid no attention to Jalen Hawkins, who was his running mate or the other safety on Cal's football team. But after reviewing his tape, like I said yesterday, the kid looks like he's very physical. He has speed to flow sideline to sideline like a DeMonte Casey. It looks like he's a ball hawk similar to DeMonte Casey. And I can see him being groomed under Ricardo Allen, because who knows if Ricardo Allen is going to be able to stay healthy. As you know, Ricardo Allen missed the whole season in 2018, and then last year in 2019 in the off season, I believe he had shoulder surgery or something like that. I believe it was shoulder surgery, just like Tat McKinley, if I'm not mistaken. So, as you know, Ricardo Allen isn't the biggest guy in the world, so he does get banged up from time to time. So I think that it's going to be big for this kid Jalen Hawkins to learn under Ricardo Allen and learn from DeMonte Casey, because I definitely think he could be a safety of the future for our team. And I definitely think in dime and nickel situations, you could possibly use Jalen Hawkins, throw him out there and let him get some reps when we're running those multiple safety looks like in the big nickel. I definitely think that he's another player that can come in and contribute to the team. I definitely also can see him possibly being a special teams player, an excellent special teams ace or special teams player, because he is a very good tackler. So I definitely think that this was another sleeper pick that I didn't see coming. I don't think anybody with any of the YouTubers or any of us Falcons fans actually seen the Falcons taking a Jalen Hawkins, but I was really impressed. Like I said, when I watched this tape, I advise you to go watch his tape. It does look like he's very physical, will come down and tackle running backs, did very well in covering tight ends up the seams, and did a good job of being a ball hawk and intercepting passes. I believe, and he had like 6 interceptions in his junior year, and then 3 interceptions last year as a senior. So when I looked up his college career stats, I think he had like 10 plus interceptions, which is really good for a safety. So I definitely think that he could be one of those guys that can definitely be a project that we can definitely work on molding his game and making him a more polished player. But I definitely think that he's somebody that could be one of the players of the future for our Atlanta Falcons and be a big contributor down the road. And with our final pick, I think the last pick was just a punter from Syracuse. I can't think of the kid's name, but out of Syracuse that we drafted. But I don't know too much about the kid. I really don't, I really don't make a big deal about punters. I don't even know if this kid is going to make the team. Personally, I think this is one of those picks where Thomas Dimitroff should have went out and grabbed somebody, another player. I wouldn't have grabbed a special teams player. Even if we would have grabbed like a special teams return man or something, or a punt returner or a kick returner, I wouldn't have took a punter because we just signed our punter. I think his name is Ryan Allen. We signed him and Younghoe Koo. So I'm thinking they bringing this kid in just to come in and compete with Ryan Allen. I don't see him beating Ryan Allen out for that position, for that punter position, because Ryan Allen was really, really good last year in the absence of Matt Bosher. And that's the reason that Matt Bosher is no longer Atlanta Falcon, because Ryan Allen played his tail off. So I'm not too, concerned with the punter. I mean, he was our, I think, 6th or 7th round pick. So, whoop-de-doo, congratulations for, being drafted by the Atlanta Falcons. But I seriously don't see this kid making the roster. He probably will get cut or be just a practice squad player. Most likely be cut, because teams don't normally carry multiple punters and kickers, because you always can pick up a kicker or a punter, in the free agency, or, later on if your kicker or your punter gets hurt. But with that being said, this been your boy Jew. That's pretty much all I had for our NFL draft. Like I said, I give our team a B. I think they could have did a little bit better in this draft, but I think they did a good job of grabbing the necessities, the players that we really, really needed to come in and fill these roles, because in some of these spots, like at corner, we didn't have depth. We didn't have depth at linebacker, so they grabbed a linebacker, and we didn't have depth in the nose tackle position or in the trenches in general. And I think they did a pretty good job of grabbing players that are versatile. Like Marlin Davidson, you can use him as a nose tackle or a defensive tackle, and you can use him as a defensive end. So I think they did a good job of trying to get players that can mix and match. Like I said, there was one thing that I think that they could have done a little bit better, or what they should have did. I think they should have drafted a defensive end. I was really disappointed that they didn't get Zach Bond and they allowed him to be drafted by the New Orleans Saints. I think they should have been a little bit more aggressive and tried to trade up. Even if you had to give away picks next year, I think that they should have tried to move up a couple spots and grab Zach Bond, because he was drafted like 2 or 3 picks before us, where the Saints moved up and took, I think it was the 49ers that traded with the Saints to allow them to draft Zach Bond. And I just think that they didn't do a good job of trying to get the players that they really, really wanted, that could have helped the team. I really think that there was some players out there, even like a Javon Kinlaw in that first round, where they possibly could have moved up. I think they thought it would take too many picks, so I kind of understand why they didn't move up for Javon Kinlaw. But some of these players I think are generational, or could possibly be generational players. So sometimes you have to roll the dice and take that gamble. And one of the reasons why I think they should have been a little bit more aggressive in this draft is because Julio Jones and Matt Ryan are getting up there in age. And once they're out of their prime, it's pretty much nothing you can do about that. Once these guys, are going, they're gone. And once that Super Bowl window has shut, on a particular quarterback or on particular receivers, like the big contributors, it's hard to get that window back open without having to rebuild your whole entire team. So I definitely would have liked to see us be a little bit more aggressive in this draft and try to move up and take some players like a Javon Kinlaw or a Zach Bond, or even a Derek Brown and those guys. I really think that they should have moved up and tried to get their hands on Javon Kinlaw, because he only went a few picks before us, and I think it was the 49ers that moved got right in front of us and drafted the player that we wanted. So with that being said, this been your boy Jew, signing out. I'll holler at you guys in the next video. I appreciate you guys for continuing to tune in. I hope you enjoy your Sunday. And as always, Falcons Nation, we rise up. Peace. I'll holler at you guys in the next video.